Welcome to Movie Time with Whinnem. Today we're talking about Batman Begins.
Excuse me.
I'm here with Mr. Whinnem, Guy, myself, Eric Jornet, and Will Blake.
Well, first topic is the beginning of Batman, where he he discovers his fear for the bats, and then his parents die. So, how do you feel about that, Mr. Whinnem?
I love it. I love the opening of this film. When I saw it in the theater, the first part of this film, the first 45 minutes to an hour, I mean, it's called Batman Begins, and it's about Batman becoming. It's about him being a young man, actually being a boy, who had a great father. His father was taken away from him, and he kind of ends up in a spiral. He kind of spirals out of control. He doesn't know who he wants to be or what he wants to be. And he almost misses his destiny. He almost becomes a vigilante killer with a gun and misses his destiny to become Batman. And instead, he throws himself into an inferno of punishment in order to train himself to become this ninja. I don't even know. I mean, I don't even know how you describe Batman. Ninja, vigilante, bat out of the darkness, vengeful angel, all of these things. You know, and those first few minutes are about the forging of the character, and I just think they handled it really, really well. I thought it was exciting. I thought it was compelling. I thought it was brilliant.
I like the first 45 minutes of the movie too, because if you watch all the old Batmans, you know, Batman, you know, Beyond, all that with George Clooney, Val Kilmer, all them, they never really go into the more detailed part of it about how he became Batman, the training, Joe Chill, all that stuff. And that's why I like this Batman so much. It's probably my favorite Batman that they've put out, because it has that much detail at the very beginning.
The core of the character is, and it's the old Superman-Batman argument. Like, Superman has superpowers. Bullets bounce off of him, and he can fly, and he's got super strength. So it's kind of easy for him to do what he does, which is why it's so difficult to make Superman an interesting character. Whereas Batman was just a guy. He was a guy who trained himself to be this. There's almost, we know that you can't become Batman.
Well, you could if you had enough time.
If you had enough time, you really can't. But, you know, the idea that he did it through hard work and grit and pushing himself farther than any man has ever pushed himself. You know, I think they showed that.
He was also a billionaire philanthropist playboy, so
right.
That's another aspect of him that's a little out of reach for the common man.
Yeah. I think that there's someone at the table, though, that doesn't like the beginning of the film.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about that, actually. What you guys all said is valid and all. It's very important to the movie, but I personally think that the whole first hour is kind of a stretch. There's a lot of time where Batman's not really doing too much. The beginning part is very important, where we learn about Batman and his true origins and why he is the Batman, who he is, the way he is. But then there gets to a part where he's training to become Batman, and he's just in the middle of some like wintry little storm, and I think it's kind of boring, I'm not going to lie. But it is necessary. So I think that the beginning part of the movie could have been shorter, but it is very important, but everything there could still be there. I just think it's too long and stretched out.
So at what point in the movie do you start gaining interest?
Morgan Freeman.
Just Morgan Freeman, that's it? You see his face
No.
and you instantly love the movie?
No, I'm not going to lie. I personally myself like action movies, so that's when we see the Batmobile, we see all this technology that Batman's going to use later in the movie, and I think it draws me much more then because of the way I like to see a movie. But not everyone likes action movies, I can see that, but that's just what draws me to the movie more compared to the beginning.
I have to tell you that when you first told us, when we decided to do this project, and you said you didn't like the first part of Batman Begins, I considered sending you to the nurse, because I thought you were suffering from some kind of fever or something. It's the best part of the movie. It's about how he becomes Batman. You've got him fighting ninjas. You've got himself thrown into a prison, and this vicious prison where he has to fight off like 6 guys at one time. How can you not? The fight on the ice. I mean,
I counted 7.
There's all kinds of action-packed, and I'm not a guy who's just, it's just fight scenes. I just kind of tune out and wait till it's over because I'm just not turned on by fight choreography. Will and I have had this discussion before. It's just not my thing. But this is about. I said this in our demo run before, that this part of the movie I thought should appeal to people your age because you guys, as juniors and seniors, you're about to go out into the world. You're about to step out in the world and ask yourself, what kind of man do I want to be? And that's what this whole first part of the movie is about. Is about Bruce Wayne saying, who do I want to be? How do I honor? What's the best way to honor my father? And that's the emotional intensity of that. I would think would get to you, but you just want Morgan Freeman in the Batmobile.
Well, no. However, I did say that it is very important and essential to the movie, but I just think that it's too long and too unnecessary. Because the only part where he's really working out like what he wants to do with his dad is the whole beginning. I mean, the whole beginning half of that whole section, and I think that that's shown when they're at the
opera.
Yeah, the opera, and he sees who killed his father, and he has to make that choice whether or not to approach that person, but then he'd be the vigilante that he doesn't want to be. He makes that choice in that beginning part. The whole act after that, where he's with, was it Ra's al Ghul?
Ra's al Ghul.
It's just not appealing to me. Guy, I know you also didn't think that it wasn't the best part of the movie, unlike what they say.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Wait, I want to hear from Guy on this. I didn't know that Guy was also down on Batman Begins, the begins of Batman Begins.
I'm not that down on it, but kind of like he said, you could have cut it down a little bit more. We didn't need to see all of that in the beginning. But there's some good points in the movie that need to be stated, when his parents do die, and when he does go to Asia and train with Ra's al Ghul. But you could have cut out all the parts where he went to the prison and fought those guys and everything else before that.
But that whole idea of Ra's al Ghul almost trying to become a surrogate father to young Bruce Wayne, and when it came right down to it, Bruce looked at the situation and said, "No, I need to embrace my fallen father, and not Ra's al Ghul." But then he still saved him. He could have let Ra's al Ghul fall to his death, but he saved him. He grabbed him and brought him back up.
Well, that's just the type of man Batman is.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
You know?
I think that character building stuff is what the rest of the movie sits on that. If you don't care about the character, then, you mentioned the other Batman movies. You don't care about the character because there is no substance to him. This Batman has substance to him.
Well, moving on from the beginning topic, Bruce goes back to Gotham, and he was about to kill Joe Chill. Goes back. He was about to kill Joe Chill, and somebody kills Joe Chill before he does.
Come on, Bruce. We don't need to see this.
I do.
What do you think of that? At that moment, what does that develop? How does that develop Batman somewhat?
It's really important because he wants to get revenge for what this guy did to his father, and he finally gets the courage to go out and do it. And after everything that, what's her name? When she smacks him in the face.
Rachel Dawes.
Yeah, Rachel. She knows what he's gonna do, and you see Batman making that choice where he's about to actually do something that we know he wouldn't actually do, but he's just in the moment and he's gonna go do it. And someone else just takes the opportunity right out of his hands, and he can't do what he's set out to do in the whole beginning part of the movie. And I think that's it's really important to understanding how Batman really develops as a character. So I think that's very important to the beginning of the movie.
I think he would have done it.
Yeah, I think he definitely would.
Without
I
a
think
doubt
he
he
would have
would've
done it,
done
and I
it.
think fate stepped in and said, "We have another destiny for you."
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree
And
with
he
that.
got a get out of jail free card on that. And have the opportunity to then really look at his rage and figure out a more productive way to channel it.
That is a really important part of the movie because right after that, right after he throws the gun in the water, or maybe it was right before, I can't remember. But then he goes and he talks to Carmine Falcone, and that's the part of the movie with the great, you all have something to lose
That speech, I love that speech. And as a matter of fact, I wrote it down in my other notes, but I don't have them on here. But it was, you think you have something.
Yeah,
to
basically
lose.
he's saying, people like you, the rich people, always have something to lose, even though he thinks he doesn't because his parents got shot 10 years ago.
Right. Yeah, one of the best monologues in the movie, and it doesn't even belong to Batman.
Yeah.
It belongs to this thug. But he does make that point. He says you forget about this beautiful young district attorney that you're friends with. You have vulnerabilities. You still have things to lose.
You still have, Alfred.
Right.
Alfred is probably the best superhero sidekick, just gonna say, in anything.
I'd have to think about that. There's always Robin.
No. We'll talk about that one later.
Yeah, well, that's another topic for another movie. But moving on, the Knight appears for the first time again on the docks against the Mafia boss and all of them.
I love this scene.
Well, you love this, so how do you feel about it? You can start it off.
I love it. I love that the first real arrival of the Batman, you don't really even see the Batman. You don't see him. He's a shadow. He's a bat. He's something that's kind of flitting around in the darkness. It's like the darkness comes alive and just takes out thug after thug after thug, and you never see him. And that whole idea of him there and not there and just there to spread fear. He says earlier, he says to Rachel, he says, as a man I can't change things, but as a symbol I can. And you see that symbol come alive, but you really see very little. You see very little, and that's what I love about it.
I like the scene. I can't say it's one of my favorites, but I can definitely see where you're coming from because it's like the movie Jaws. Like Jaws was so scary because you barely ever saw the shark. It's kind of like that because you never really see Batman. You know he's there. You know it's Batman, but you gotta imagine that the thugs he was taking out were probably pretty scared.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all can agree this is one of the best fight scenes in Batman. I think, like Mr. Whinnem said, it's really important because it's that true Dark Knight that we see in the second movie. That title comes from the idea of it being a literal Dark Knight in this, and the fact that Batman can be all over Gotham or anywhere, and you just don't know when he's gonna do what he feels is right and fight for what he believes is right. You just don't know where he actually is, and this scene actually shows that because it's a literal Dark Knight, and you can't see Batman at all, and he just takes out gang member after gang member after gang member, and it just shows his true power that he's actually worked towards, and it's really shown here for the first time. So.
Well, to almost wrap it up, Ra's al Ghul comes back in the end, and he's about to pretty much destroy Gotham. Somebody here actually hated the ending, so
I hated it.
Yeah, you hated it. Why did you hate it?
Because I think that in the end, after this great character build-up, these great moments where Batman grabs, it's this movie where he grabs the guy and the guy says, he wants to get answers out of him, and the guy says, "No, I swear to God," and Batman screams, "Swear to me," which is a really guttural, rough, blasphemous line. But so raw. I mean, Batman's anger is channeled at that moment. Like he really, when he finally gets his hands on a thug, that's when you see the rage in him, which I think is great. And then in the end, it comes down to there's a bomb on the train and it's heading towards the center of Gotham and we got to stop the bomb. And you know, I've seen that movie before.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Right, exactly. Yes, that's back to the first Batman movie, running around with the bomb over his head. So, yeah,
Adam
some days
West
you can't
and
get rid of
Barrett
it. Can't
Water.
get rid of a bomb. But you know, you saw it. It felt like the end of a James Bond movie from the early James Bond movies. It seemed old. It seemed rehashed, and it seemed somewhat silly. The death ray is going to kill the city.
Yeah, that is one of the more, I can see where you're coming from, because that is one of the more cliche endings in a movie. But I think the way they went about it for Batman, you know, Ra's al Ghul, all that, it being one of Bruce Wayne's own inventions from, you know, Wayne Tech and all that, I think they definitely went about that type of ending in the right way. It could have been better, but they went about it in the right way.
Remember what you said, because that's one of my arguments with the third movie.
I haven't seen that one yet,
Right,
so.
I know. But let's just say it's a rehash.
It's a okay.
No comment?
Wait a minute, now you like the end, though.
I mean, I think it's all right. I don't really have too much to say about it. I mean,
It's a movie ending.
yeah,
you know?
it's. I mean, Batman works so hard to show us what he can do, and he does it in the end. It's not like it's superb, but it's not bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, I felt, as soon as they got on the train and it was heading, you know, I felt the movie was over. I love the stuff with the Scarecrow. I thought the Scarecrow was brilliantly realized. He frightened me. You know, the scenes where he gives his victims the drug and they start hallucinating, and then he puts that mask on and you see worms crawling out of his eyes and all of these horrible I mean, the Scarecrow was downright frightening. He, of course, shows up in all three movies, which is very well done. But then the moment they got out of the Narrows and were on that train, it was just...
Personally, I think it would have been a better movie if, or one of the three movies would have been better if, in the end, Batman didn't get to save the day. I thought that would be an interesting thing to do with a superhero movie. You know, the superhero fails and can't do what he has to do.
He does fail in the Narrows.
Well, yes, but he still, you know, stopped the bomb. He saved Gotham, pretty much. But, you know, it wasn't always like that back in the, you know, 60s comics and the 70s comics. Like, there was one where Batman fails and a little kid gets blown up by a landmine. And I always thought that was an interesting way to go about Batman, with him not always being able to save the day. Because, like you said, he's just a normal guy. He can fail. He can not succeed when it comes to saving the day all the time.
So, I guess we're about to wrap it up. But does this mean that I win the argument?
I didn't know we were going for winners or losers here.
I'm just going to go ahead and say me and Mr. Whinnem won.
Just a spectator. So, yeah, to wrap it up.
Wait, you're not even going to give Eric a chance to talk?
Yeah, you know,
Well,
it's like
Eric-
I was going to
2
talk
minutes,
about
then
my
a
favorite
rebuttal,
part
then
of the
2
end of
minutes.
the movie, but my favorite part of the whole end of the movie is when Commissioner Gordon comes to Batman with this card.
Oh, well, yes.
This wraps up the whole movie in such a good way that leads you to can't wait to watch the second movie. And if, as we watch one week and then the next one the next week, but people that actually wait for that movie, the 2 or 3 years that it took in the middle, that must have been the roughest thing, because you see Gordon come out with this card and he says, "I got my next victim for you," and it just is the Joker. And it's just a Joker card.
It's like the best cliffhanger.
Yeah, it is. Honestly,
Ever
it's
in a
like the
movie.
Avenger movies. They all have an ending. This ending completely left anyone who watched that Batman movie completely waiting for the next one, and it's just such a good ending in my opinion.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad of a cliffhanger. Like, they didn't stop it right as we were about to flip over the card. Like, you knew the next move was going to be the
Yeah,
Joker.
and
not gonna lie, I was pumped for that. I was excited that the next movie was going to be the Joker.
Would we agree, though, that, I mean, if somebody had never seen this movie and came to us and said, you know, should I watch it? I would say definitely.
yeah,
I would
the first one?
I would recommend this movie to anyone and everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah?
yeah.
It is my favorite of all three Batman movies. The two that came
Honestly,
out.
you don't have to watch the first one.
Yes,
You could just go
get
right
out.
to the second one and then go on from there.
Gee.
You're wrong.
First one, no. Everyone knows Bruce Wayne's parents died.
But
that's
before
pretty
you-
basic, so that's what the first movie's about, and
Bef-
then it goes right into him. So I don't think the first movie, like, you could just watch the second one, go on to the second one.
You could, but you'd be missing good stuff.
Before you watched the first Batman movie, did you know who Carmine Falcone was?
So what?
Did you know who Joe Chill was?
No.
Thank you.
Well, I think I think we just ended. So this was Movie Time with Whinnem, and we're signing off.
Nice. Now take this guy. Armed robbery, double homicide. Got a taste for the theatrical, like you. Leaves a calling card. I'll look into it. I never said thank you.